think you manifest. So get ready to rise, cause we about to be the best. Gotta switch it up, gotta break the old habits. Get your mind right, turn your dreams into habits. No negative vibes, only positive thoughts.
What is up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Mindset Cafe podcast. It's your boy Devin, and today I'm honored to be welcomed with a special guest, Arlene Miller. She is a transformational coach. She is an attorney. She is a meditation facilitator, and honestly, she is an expert in just the work-life harmony overall. She has had decades of experience in high pressure careers, and Arlene's really dedicated her life to helping women and professionals really find balance and fulfillment and peace while navigating that career success, that relationship success, and honestly, just personal self-growth. So without further ado, Arlene, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to hop on.
Thank you for having me.
So let's dive straight in, right? You know, where did your journey really go? I like to hear it straight from the source, get a little bit of background, from you, like from bring up, your childhood, all the way up until where we're at today.
Well, I had a pretty normal childhood. I grew up in Louisville, Kentucky. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. She thought she'd made it. Her parents were pretty poor, so she was thrilled to stay home and be a mother. And just in a regular neighborhood where kids were still outside playing with each other and doing kick the can and football and everything like that. And so, yeah, pretty normal. And when I was 15, I decided that I wanted to be an attorney. Big shock to my mom and dad. And I did. I went to law school. I went to college and law school, got my degree, got married my second year in law school. I'm not married to him anymore, but anyway, we moved up to Cleveland, Ohio, when we both graduated. And so I worked for some other attorneys for a few years, and then I went out on my own. I had a solo practice. Immediately found out I was pregnant, and I didn't have a tribe. My family, both of our families were in Kentucky. All my friends from law school, all my support, group business wise, they were in like the lower part of Ohio and Indiana, Kentucky, beginning their law school, their careers in law. And so I had to learn how to develop my own tribe as a new business owner and a soon to be mother. And there weren't any coaches back then that I knew of, that did this kind of stuff. So, I tried a counselor, and that didn't really help. So I just sort of built my own tribe in my own life. And when my son was 9, I sold the business. We moved to Longmont, Colorado. I started off in divorce law. That was kind of burnt me out. And then I went to commercial law, and I was helping businesses collect their debts. And so I bought into a small boutique firm that was doing the same thing out in Colorado. And we sold the business about a little over 6 years ago. And before we sold it, I got a diploma in coaching and mentoring, a diploma in transformational holistic counseling, and certification in meditation. And I was just going to use it in the practice of law, but then I just got really burnt out and I just needed to do something else. So I decided I was going to do what I love full time, and we sold the business.
Well, that is awesome that you found a new passion and everything. What was the original passion or inspiration to go into law?
I just feel like a really cool thing. I mean, I knew I could help people, and I also knew that I just always had this thing. I wanted to be a independent woman and not have to get married, to have someone take care of me, to get married because we wanted to get married. And so that just seemed like the ideal career, and it just seemed interesting and challenging and something that, I could really thrive in and enjoy.
No, that is, it's super interesting. I mean, because you're raising a family and you're going into, I've had clients that have been, going through law school and even, working as an attorney, and it is not a time-friendly job necessarily. So, you built a whole law practice while raising a family. What were some of the biggest challenges that you faced with trying to maintain, I guess, a work-life quote unquote balance? I hate using that phrase,
Yeah.
but what were some of the biggest challenges for you?
Well, I bring in the word harmony, work-life balance and harmony, because otherwise it just feels like the scales of justice, and that doesn't work, because we're always need to adapt and change no matter what kind of thing we do. I guess I'm just really, really grateful. My ex-husband made enough money to put a roof over our head and have food on the table. So when I started my law practice, I knew I wasn't like I was desperate. I had to make a ton of money to begin with. So I was really, really grateful that I was self-employed because like the first year that my son was born, it was impossible to work full time and have your sanity. And it took a while to find, a child care provider that I really loved and to have a group of friends. I ended up having a group of friends that I ran with that were parents and had young kids too. And we'd sort of drop them off at the health food club, have a run, share everything as we're running. And it was like my therapy. So it was by the seat of my pants. I was really tired for the first 3 years, of his life and my business. But I was just flexible and adaptable. If I had to bring things home to get things done while he was asleep, I did that. And I don't know, I just developed a network of friends and some other women business owners who are going through the same thing. And I don't know, how do we do it when we're going through that? We're in the middle of it. We're like, oh my God, how did I get myself into this? We just keep on stepping.
No, I believe me, I have a 3-year-old daughter and we have one on the way. So I I already know, like, the first one, it was like, what did we do? Like, and then you start to, oh, it's almost like PTSD. You like, we're planning on it and everything, but it's still, then it's real and you're like, oh man. But you figure it out. And that's the crazy thing is you live and you adapt, and it's just like entrepreneurship. It's just like, anything else. It's like you just adapt it as it comes, you know. And so I'm curious, with getting burnt out, right, with from the law firm and practicing law, as you're starting to get more into coaching, what was that pivotal moment, right? Because I think we all have that one moment at least that it's like the final, okay, I'm just making a jump, right? I'm gonna go all in. What was that for
Yeah,
you?
I don't know. Well, the one to get out of to get stop doing divorce law was a client that was an alcoholic um filed a professional complaint against me, and I had to hire an attorney to represent me. I'm like, oh my God. And that was when I was like, I was like, there's this. I was in a small like storefront office. It was nothing fancy. Two attorneys, an employment agency, and this guy that was selling collection packages to businesses to help them collect their debts. And he's like, "Hey, Arlene, I see you're getting burnt out doing family law. Would you like to be the attorney for this? You can do the ones in Colorado. You can farm out the ones that are in the other states." And that's how I got into that. And so it was like this kind of nice segue, but it was really interesting. It's like when I decided that I wasn't going to practice family law anymore, I got more people calling me on the phone in like 2 weeks than I'd had in like the past 6 months. It was insane. I kept on referring them out. I'm like, I think the universe is saying, are you really going to do this? Are you really going to do this? Do you really have the guts? And I was like, I was done. So I don't know, with the other with commercial law, I was tired. It just kind of built up. It wasn't like this pivotal thing. I'd gotten the coaching and the counseling and the meditation, certification, and it just was like I just can't do this anymore. I was tired. I couldn't go anywhere. If I went, we traveled for business, and we went on holidays and stuff like that, but it was never not there. You'd have to work your tail off to leave, work your tail off to come back. And I was just like, I need a different lifestyle. It's wonderful, but it was just got to the point I could do something else I enjoyed and not be under so much stress all the time.
No, I completely get that. I mean, it was probably really fun and exciting in the beginning, or even throughout the career, and then there's just a point where you're just like, I'm tapped, like I'm burning the candle from too many ends. It's not even both ends, it's too many ends.
Yeah.
I'm over it. And so I feel like a lot of professionals, right, especially entrepreneurs, struggle with that, right? They start to burn themselves out, they get overstressed. What are some effective ways that you've seen or you've discovered really for them to maintain their work-life balance and harmony?
Well, I have a lot of tools because I developed them on the way and I love to share them. I think the simplest thing is I always start with is breath work. We forget to breathe. We get really stressed. We get really anxious. We get like tight in our chest. We get tight in our shoulders. We get anxious. We get overwhelmed, and we breathe really shallow, or we're holding our breath. And so we can just start with some really simple breathwork techniques that physiologically, I see you're into fitness, they physically, logically and I am too, switch your gears. When you go from this fight or flight to this rest or relax mode because you're oxygenating your body, you're giving the body the signal that it's okay to release, relax, and let go. The same working out is great; it helps that too. But this helps more with the mind and there's a lot of breath work if you and different kinds of exercises as well that are awesome. But the simplest one you can start with is just breathe in through your nose, breathe out through your nose, have the out breath longer than the in breath, and you can do it anywhere. Someone's talking to you, you're driving the car, you're waiting in line. You don't have to make it a different part of your day, but just sort of continue this breath work consciously until you begin to chill down a little bit.
No, have you ever read Think Like a Monk by Jay Shetty?
No, I haven't. Does that have some good stuff in there too?
It does, but I mean, I agree with everything you're saying with the breath work, and that's why I'm referencing this book. In the book, there's a chapter on breath work, and he describes, I want to say it's 9 different things, different ways of breathing, right? How you were mentioning the in breath versus the out breath and the lengths of them. And I tried them. I tried a few of them, just out of curiosity, and it really does start to have a physiological change on your body and everything. And I've even done one of those breath works where at the business mastermind I'm a part of, we do it every other meetup, every other quarterly meetup, where this lady flies in and she does this breath work where it's like, I don't even know I forget what the name of it is, but everyone lays down and it's quiet and she's basically guiding everyone through breathe in, breathe out. And I will say I was kind of skewed on my belief in it. And so everyone ahead of time was like, you might cry, you might this. And I was like, okay, whatever. And so I was kind of skeptical, but I was like, I'm game. I'll try whatever to do it. But all of a sudden, right before we start, she tells us, if your body feels glued to the ground, like, don't panic, that's natural. And I was like, oh, you got to be kidding me, like, whatever. And then we start going through it, and I thought, like, because we were outside, so I thought there was like bugs or something on my arm, but my arm, I guess, was raising along the grass, and that's what I was feeling. But then I went to adjust my arm because I thought there was something on it, and I couldn't get it off the ground. And I was like, oh boy, we're about to go through some stuff right now. Like, it's crazy, like, how breathwork can have an effect on you.
Yeah. And there's so many like karate, tai chi, weightlifting. I do yoga, there's breath work. There's so many things physically that we do that if you're in Colorado and you're walking up a mountain, you better be doing breath work or you're not going to get to the top. So it's all around us. And I think we just don't even acknowledge that, how helpful it is.
No, definitely. And so, I mean, going into this a little bit, like, with the whole stress, with the burnout, the breath work is amazing, but how could someone maybe break free of, what I like to call, and I believe you mentioned before, that the hamster wheel, and really start moving forward with their intentionality and their clarity?
Yeah, there's so many things when people are stuck and like feel like they're going around in circles and can't get off. And what I feel that is most frequently there is that there's a lot of judgment. They might be judging themselves for how they're feeling, judging themselves for the situation that they're in, judging themselves if they can't get out of the situation, whatever it is that's going on. And then what we do is we put like the icing on the cake and we start judging ourselves for judging ourselves. And that's like when you really can't get off the wheel. So the first step is just to go, wow, I've been judging myself, because when we place our awareness on something, it can't hide anymore.
Mm,
And when we're judging ourselves, we're like being an inner critic instead of an inner coach. And so we can start to play with ways that we can, be more of that inner coach instead of the inner critic. And part of it's just being aware of it. And when we notice that, just go like, that's not like me, that's not who I am, and then make a new choice. So we're making a new choice when we recognize that we're behaving in a way that's like pulling us down, holding us back, making us feel small and contracted, and making a new choice, and even visualizing maybe we made a mistake somewhere and we got ourselves stuck, how we're going to do it differently next time. So we're like laying the foundation for the new. And of course it takes a lot of practice. And I always say practice makes permanent, that there's no magic fairy dust here. If we backed ourselves into a corner and we're on this treadmill because we're judging and we can't get off, not to expect magic fairy dust and just do it once. It's almost like a lifetime way of changing how we live.
I love that. And it's crazy, like, you mentioned where we can be our biggest critic, but we're supposed to be our biggest like hype person, right? Where you're
Yes.
supposed to be your biggest cheerleader essentially. And I mean, I've talked to so many clients, because being in the fitness space, owning a gym and everything like that, it's a lot of people come in and they have this self-doubt, and it's like, look, you're here, you're already doing a lot of these things, that's your proof. And it's like, you have to believe in yourself before you can expect other people to believe in you. Other people will believe in you before that point, but how could you expect someone else to believe in you if you can't believe in yourself? You're supposed to be your biggest hype person, right? And so it's like, where does gratitude and self-love and all that kind of stuff come into play? And then how would you define self-love?
Just ask you a million questions at once. Okay, well, we'll start with gratitude. You know, gratitude is like the key for all manifestation. And like if you're, I don't know if it's a gym and you're doing weights or you're doing running or whatever, it would be like even say you're just lifting 3 pounds, which sometimes is what I do in my sculpt classes. But anyway, I can do more now. But it's like we acknowledge ourselves for all our little accomplishments along the way. You come to the gym and maybe someone's doing something 10 times more than you. Who cares? This is what I did today. I'm going to acknowledge myself for that, and I am going to celebrate that success. And we can do that in any area of our life. And so when we do that, we're building this foundation of that inner coach and telling the inner critic, which is really our personality, to take a back seat. Because I sort of believe that the soul, the greater bit of us, is our inner coach. And sometimes we let that personality, blah, 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 just get in the driver's seat and say, no, get in the back, baby. And so that's really a bottom line. And maybe you can, I'm sure you do something like that with your clients, but if you can acknowledge, even if I can only lift 3 pounds, or I can only do this, one time instead of 10, that you started something. Well done. And we're going to build on that, because muscle does get stronger and you can build that. So I'm just using your industry. And with gratitude, I guess I think the mistake that people make the most is they're waiting for something big to be grateful for.
Mhm.
When I had my son and he slept like a couple hours more in the night, I was like doing a happy dance. It's like, oh my God, I got 2 hours more sleep last night. This is amazing. So we need to be we need to be grateful for all the little things that happen in our life already, and all the things we've already manifested in our life, instead of waiting for something to be grateful for. That's kind of silly, because we have so much to be grateful for already. And one of my friends shared with me, she was in a beauty shop getting her hair done, and the hairdressers were playing this game. And they're like, if I didn't have a coat, if I don't have a coat, at least I have a sweater to keep me warm. And the next one would go, if I didn't have a sweater to keep me warm, at least I would have shoes on my feet. And the next one would go, if I didn't have shoes on my feet, at least I would have socks to keep me warm. But it was like a really amazing, she said it was an amazing energy. And they were all playing this game, and everyone that was in the salon was just like, wow. It's like if you could feel everyone lifting up. So I know I'm talking fast, but anyway, you asked me a lot of questions. I don't think I answered them all, but
No, no,
I'll
you. No,
stop there.
I asked like a blanket question because one, my ADD brain. If I don't say it once, then I'll be not focused on what you're saying. But now, as you're saying it, I know the rest of the question. So usually I'll ask the same question or the rest of it later. So no, you answered actually a lot of the question. The rest was, since a lot of people are that biggest critic and everything like that, that's what I was asking about, the gratitude and the self-love. But the remaining part of the question being, what is self-love? Like, how would you define self-love?
How I don't know if I have words for how I define self-love. Um, I guess self-love for me is loving myself unconditionally. So I'm not, if I'm loving myself, I don't expect anything back in return. I'm just loving myself for the joy of loving myself, which takes out the judgment, it takes out the inner critic, it takes out everything else. And when we're doing that, I mean, there's a really simple way that we can start doing that. I mean, For women, sometimes it's just going to get a massage and the mani pedi. I don't do that anymore, but something that's just really nice for yourself. But they can also be as simple as, you know, sometimes when like stuff is going on and I can feel myself having a reaction, I'll just stop and go, I wonder how old this Arlene bit is inside of me. Maybe she's 8, maybe she's 10, maybe she's 3. Somewhere I got stuck. Something happened and something got frozen inside of me, or I've been judging, some bit of my behavior, like my teenage years. I wasn't perfect. Um, and you just turn around and love those bits. We need to find ways to fill ourselves up with love. Some of my friends just get outside in nature and walk around and enjoy the beauty, and that's how they fill themselves up with love. But we all have, some of my friends love to cook, and thank God there's someone who's not me, but I love to have friends like that. And so we have things that really light us up, that make our hearts sing. And it's important to engage in those activities and really appreciate them. And that's another way that we fill ourselves up with love. So it's individual for each person, but it's with the collective of humanity. I'm sure we could find something, in a way to fill ourselves up with love.
No, I love that. And the reason I asked that question, and it's not, there's no that right answer to it, because social media, you see a lot of this self-love, and it's always blanketed either to the beauty industry or to an Instagram influencer promoting a product, and so it's like, what is the foundational aspect that someone needs to understand what self-love is? And it's not something that is used in a marketing ploy, or understanding it from a different standpoint. So that's why I really like to ask that question, just to get a real an honest take on it without any pictures or anything behind it, because that's where you start to understand the meaning of it, right? Because for self-love, like you said, it does mean different things for different people, but still there's a general common undertone of what it should mean, right? And I mean, you nailed it on the head. It's the accepting who you are, loving who you are, right? Because you are unique, you are beautiful in your own sense, and being okay with the good and the bad, and understanding that when things don't go right, and you act a certain way, like why was that, right? And then accept that part of you, and you learn how, if you want to change it, then learn where did you get stuck, right? So my next question is, I want you to explain a little bit more of what you just said, that getting stuck, because I think that's a really interesting concept, and you kind of went over that pretty fast. Is it the 8-year-old version of me? Is it this? What does that mean when getting stuck at different years?
Well, sometimes when we, like if, oh, I'm trying to explain this. Like both of us can be in a conversation with a third person, and this third person says something, and it triggers the heck out of me. And you're going, "What's your problem? Nothing happened," because we all have things inside of ourselves that can just trigger something. For
Hmm.
me, it's like if someone asks questions that are too personal, and I used to get like really defensive,
Hmm.
and it's like, I'm not going to answer that question. They would push and push, and I would get upset. And so we all have different, and it might be, you would like not care. It's like, I'll tell them I don't care. So if there's things that trigger me in the world, or trigger me with somebody else or a group, it's something inside of me that I can heal. And so I'm the only one that has the love there to do that. Nobody else really has that special kind of love. We can have other people in our lives that love us, but our love is what we really need to heal those bits inside of ourselves. And some of the ways we get stuck is when those parts of us got frozen in time, and maybe we had an experience where we shut down our heart, or we just got really hurt. And probably our parents didn't even know it was happening. Maybe we're just, a little bit more sensitive, like I was, than the normal kid. And then we can just turn around and love those bits because they got stuck. They don't know how to get unstuck. We're the adult now. They're just the kid. We're the soul. Maybe they're just their personality. And we have that special love to turn around and hug them and say, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry I wasn't there for you. I'm sorry I ignored you. But I'm here now. And then we just really have to find a way to stay with those younger bits of ourselves and holding them in love, like we would our children. If they fell down and skinned their knee or started crying for something, and we give that to ourselves. So we already know how to do it because we've
Hmm.
given it to other people. We're just turning around and practicing giving it to ourselves.
No, it's interesting, and honestly, this is straight curiosity, that why I'm asking. S- So I understand, is that like where I'll use myself for example, right? I remember I got hurt in a relationship when I was at the end of high school going into college, but that also was a pivotal moment for me. And I don't know if it was going into college and, being a guy, or if it was also a response to not get hurt again, that you start acting different, you start viewing relationships differently and so forth. And then there was another time later on where I realized what I was doing, and it started to change. Is that similar to what you're talking about?
Yeah, because oftentimes what happens is this is a different side of the coin that we, if something happens hard like that,
Mhm.
we tell ourselves a story that, it's not safe to be in a relationship, it's not safe to open my heart. Um, it, or all women are whatever, or all men are whatever. We tell ourselves a story and we get stuck in it for a while.
Mhm.
And hopefully lots of us find a way to work our way out of that, but sometimes, I mean, some people have a reaction. They start dating lots and lots of women. Um, so yes, things happen to us, and then we might tell ourselves a story that we need to hopefully later in our life let go of, because obviously you have a loving relationship and two children now, so you must have worked through something. But that's not unusual as well, and we just really need to be aware. Have I am I telling myself a story because someone really broke my heart, or this really difficult thing happened?
I got you. It makes total sense. Um, Now pivoting a little bit, right? Going into relationships and going into self love as well. There's talks of setting boundaries, and I've had some conversations with other people about this topic, but I wanted to get your take off of on this. Is like setting clear boundaries, setting strong boundaries. Why is it crucial, and what is the purpose?
Well, it's important. This is common sense, but I'll say it anyway. If we don't set really clear, strong, and appropriate boundaries, and we come into contact with someone that's having a bad hair day, and we're just wide open. I mean, I don't know if you've ever, I'm sure most people have experienced this. It's like their energy sort of punches you right in the gut or in the throat or in the heart, and it just like feels horrible. And you might walk away feeling horrible because you didn't have strong, appropriate boundaries. And I guess what I share with people is that we don't set our boundaries by how we are, we set our boundaries by how the other person is. Because, if we're all in love and we're going out to lunch or we're doing this or that, and we're, I don't know, we're out at an amusement park together, and we're all open because we're in this wonderful relationship, and then someone third person, maybe another couple, comes over to us and they're all arguing, and we're all wide open, we're going to get whammied by their energy. So we always need to be cognizant of how the other people are that we're interacting with, and it can always change. So stronger boundaries if someone's in a bad place, or they've something is really upsetting them. It doesn't mean, and I guess what I used to think is that, and I didn't realize for a long time, it's really important to have these strong boundaries for the people in our lives, our partner, our kids, everyone, because what we're saying is that I'm only letting unconditional love into my little golden bubble of protection, my boundaries. Therefore, I'm going to be filled up with a lot more love. Your upsettedness is not coming into my golden bubble, but I'm going to hold compassion and kindness and all those beautiful qualities for you and share my love with you, like the overflow of the love that I have in my heart. But it's not my job to take on all of the negativity and upset that you're feeling, because first of all, it drags me down, and
Mhm.
then I can't be, as helpful to you or as loving to you. And I learned that the hard way. I never realized that I had two sets of boundaries, one for the rest of the world and one for the people I loved. And so I learned that the hard way.
Is there a third level of boundaries, like within yourself, like one for other people, one for your close family and friends and everything like that, and even your kids, but then is there a set of boundaries maybe for yourself?
Yeah, that's a wonderful thing to bring to the table, and I guess that's where I don't know if it's exactly setting boundaries. It's more, it feels like more parenting to me, that, we're being the loving parent to the bits of ourselves that, want to be that inner critic, that want to cut ourselves down, that want us to contract and make small. And we're saying, no, that's not your job. I love you, but I'm stepping forward. Like when people come to the gym, you got this scared kid or whatever it is inside of them that thinks they can't do it. I hear you. I love you. It's not your job to do this. I'm going to go and lift those weights or whatever they're going to do. Get in the back seat. I'm going to still love you, but I'm the one that's stepping forward. So I think that's more parenting than boundaries.
No, interesting. Um, do you believe in, and this is kind of off topic, but at the same time, it's just I love your thought process on certain things. So I'm just curious. Do you believe in manifestation? And I'll leave it there. Do you believe in manifestation?
Well, I don't believe in it. I experienced it and know it's to be true. The law of attraction is what you focus on is what you get more of in your life. And so the problem isn't that most of us, myself included when I was younger, and I can still do it now, is that we focus on the reverse of an idea. So, like your people come to you and they want to lift weights or whatever. I don't know exactly what goes on in your gym, but they're focusing on how they're going to hurt their shoulder or they can't do it. It's going to be too hard instead of acknowledging that, okay, I feel scared and feeling is healing. I'm going to work with those feelings, but I am aligning to and I'm moving towards being someone who really works with weights and enjoys it and gets better every week. So that would be like aligning to what I'm choosing to create in my life positively while acknowledging and allowing those feelings to sort of move through me and replace them with more love.
No, definitely. And the reason I stopped at the first part of the question was to kind of see where you answered that with, because it definitely makes sense, and that's what I believe as well. It's like manifesting does really work, but something important you were just saying is like there's action behind that manifestation. Like you can't. The big thing for me is like so many people think of talking about them achieving their goals in the past tense and writing in a journal, and again that works for some people. But in my opinion, that only works as a tool as long as you're still trying to take actions towards that goal, if that makes
Right.
sense.
Right. It's like if you have to take action. You just can't dream. Um, I guess I can't talk. Okay, for a moment. So it's like my vision of this is that I've gotten to a certain place. I'm acknowledging myself and I'm standing on this cliff and it looks like there's an abyss. And if I take a next step, I'm going to fall into the abyss. But the truth of the matter is, and this is how I feel, you can take it or leave it, is that we have to take one step forward. We don't have to have a 5-year plan or a 1-year plan. We need to take one step forward for our goals. And I feel my feeling is spirit gets behind me and holds me up and then I feel into how that feels for me, and then I take another step, and then I take
Mhm.
another step. But in order for us to manifest our goals and to move forward, we have to take action. And if we're doing it from the heart and we're doing it from a singing heart, especially, we're going to be supported each step of the way. Because it's important to keep our bodies healthy if we want to enjoy life and be of service. We can't do it if we're all crumpled up. And one of the best ways to do it is to exercise and eat right and yeah, we have to do those physical things.
No, definitely. You said something real quick. I just wanted to see if I heard it right. You said from the heart, and then I believe you said from the singing heart.
Yeah, I feel like it's really important that the goals that we should have a singing heart about it. And maybe it's going to take some time, but if we're stepping out of our comfort zone, and a part of us was like before we take the step, maybe the people that are coming to your gym, they had this moment like, I really feel that this is what I need to do. But when we have that kind of singing heart moment, all the things that are saying no are going to come up to be felt and move through. And we just need to acknowledge them because they're kind of in ourselves because we haven't done something for a while that's really important. And then the more we do it and we more to build a foundation, the more it's just going to be, I really enjoy this, and this is a part of who I am.
No, okay, I got you. I just want to make sure I heard that right. Um, so do have a final question for you, and I know I didn't give it to you ahead of time because I like the first thing that comes to mind, but I will preface it by saying this is not a tombstone, and
This is not a what?
a tombstone. This is not
Oh,
a.
tombstone.
I have to say it, and even though I say it, some people still give me, loving father or loving mother, and it's like that's not this, right? So
Okay.
on Arlene's legacy wall, right, on this wall, right? And it says Arlene Miller, and it goes into your legacy quote or message that you would leave for the up and coming generations that you've learned along your life's journey till this point. What would that message be?
Um,
It can be as big or as long as you want it to be.
um, Mistakes are opportunities to learn and grow, not a reason to beat myself up. And any disaster that we experience in our life, we can turn it into a blessing if we so choose.
I love that. Explain it a little bit, so people can get some context on it. I mean, I know it is pretty straightforward, but I love the last part of it, and I just want to get your take on why that's your legacy message.
Well, the whole thing is, I think it might have been a quote from Winston Churchill. I forget. And it's like any disaster can become a blessing. Any blessing can become a disaster, but there's always a better way. And
Mhm.
so, you know, an example of disaster becoming a blessing is that, you had a child that was killed, or something like that. And people have foundations and they're helping children all over the world. I had a friend whose child died when she went to South America. I forget what happened, but the vaccine or something they gave her, she had a really bad reaction. And anyway, they have this foundation and they're helping kids all over the world so that whatever happened to their daughter doesn't happen to somebody else.
Mhm.
That's like turning a disaster into a blessing. And of course, I mean, the way we can talk about turning a blessing into disaster is people that win the lottery and 2 years later they're broke.
Mhm.
And there's always a better way, is that we're always evolving, we're always learning, we're always growing. So what was fantastic for me when I was 20, I've outgrown that, and there's a better way now that I'm much older to do something and to learn from that experience. So we're always evolving, we're always growing if we so choose.
I love that. Where can people connect with you and learn more about what you have going on?
Well, you can come into my website, which is Jewel, Jewel consultancy.com. If you look up Arlene Cohen Miller, you have to put the Cohen, that's my middle name and my son's last name. I think I'm the only one. So you'll find me with all the social media links. And if you mention this podcast and you just have a question or you want to connect with me, you can text me at 720-936-2634.
All right. Well, guys, that will be in the show notes. If you are watching this on YouTube, it'll be in the video description. But I know you guys got a lot out of this because I know personally I did. I mean, I know you guys heard my questions and me diving into it on with my personal stuff. So make sure you guys share this episode with a friend, right? Bring one person up in your circle, and in turn, it's going to help elevate you because you are your circle, right? So bring them up, send this episode, but make sure you guys do it and do it out of love for them, right? But Arlene, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to hop on the Mindset Cafe.
Thank you.
No negative vibes, only positive thoughts. Cause in the game of life, mindset calls the shots. Got my mind on the prize, I can't be distracted. I stay on my grind, no time to be slacking. I hustle hard, I go